Hey everybody, Jason with Mark Twain Lake Fishing Intel, and this week's business spotlight. We're over here at Mark Twain Lake Lure Company. I got Keith Hendricks right here with me. We're out over here in the dungeon. Is that what you
Yep,
call
we're
it?
in the dungeon.
He calls it the dungeon. So he makes spinnerbaits, bladed jigs, jigs, a whole 9 yards. So I'm going to turn it over to him. Keith's going to go over his business, what it's all about, and don't forget, Keith's one of the premier bass tournament anglers here on Mark Twain Lake pretty much his whole life. So you're going to gain a lot of knowledge from listening to him on how he makes these baits and all that good stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to him and let him take it from here.
Well, I guess what we'll do is we'll start with how did I get into this, and how did this all come about? Probably 20 plus years ago, myself and some friends, other fishermen, we decided that, just like anybody, you'd kind of like to see if you could catch fish off something you build yourself. So we started dabbling in, at first, building some little ball-headed jigs and some spinnerbaits, and that was just the only two things we really made. And that sort of morphed into, hey, a few people would want us to build them some things, and we would do that, kind of sell off the tailgate of the truck, so to speak. And then, I don't know, kids, grandkids, different things got into the way, and we kind of dropped off with it for a while. But I had a drive to want to get back into it at some point, so I chose to jump back in, and with the help of my son Darren, who's my IT guy, he's my web manager. He does a lot of other things for me too. He doesn't know fishing, but he does know IT work. So he's made us look pretty good online. Probably got more website than I do anything else. But again, if you go back, that's kind of how we got started. In the last, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years, began to get a lot more serious about getting back into it. Also was thinking about, this maybe be an early retirement job, kind of a fun job. I still tournament fish, and maybe this would help offset some of my expense on tournament fishing. So that's where some of a little bit of the history of where this came from. I decided that I wanted to design everything around Mark Twain Lake. Wanted to use all things inclusive about that. So wanted to be sure that I got around to several of the businesses on the lake, doing business with them. Several of them are retailing our products out there. Hobby Hut, Hunting Corner. I've actually got over at 154 Marine, because I've got a great relationship with them, and they were good enough to let me put a sales board in there. And I've even got some at the Indian Creek Marina. So we've got a little bit of coverage out here on the lake. I really don't try to go any further than that right now. And most everything that I've come up with is something that I would use. This is not just something that I want to sell to someone just for the sake of selling and making a dollar. These are the things that I have learned over time, years worth of fishing, that I like for one reason or another, or have figured out how to alter a little bit and make them like I like. None of that was really with profits in design, in this deal. So I do some things that aren't the most profitable. They're very cumbersome. Everything's done one at a time. If you buy a bait from me, I touched it. And, so that's down to, painting your jig heads, drilling out weed guard holes, baking paint, building all the skirts from scratch off skirt pads. I don't hand tie any jigs right now. This job is time consuming as it is, and I seem to be just fine with skirt collars and things for now. If I get into a signature jig or something sometime, I might consider going that far with things. But what I'm doing so far is all products I would use and do use. If you go out and look at my boat, that's all you're going to find. So from there, the next thing I would like for everybody to know is that these items that I'm making, again, they're the items that I would fish with, that I do fish with. There's a few little things. I might show you one real quick here. Just grab a... I was showing Jason earlier. The bladed jig that I make has a item called that's a Mustad Fast Hatch for a line tie on it. And there's nothing cheap about these things. And I have to modify them a little bit to get them onto the blade. But what I have found, rather than the old clip like a wiggle wart would have on it, or any kind of a split ring, gives this thing a lot more freedom of movement. And I really like the eye, the way the eye works, and I don't seem to have any, nothing's going to pull off on that. So that's just one little example of the things that I try to do to make a real good quality bait. Spinnerbaits. A lot of that is built around your blade. Your blade and your swivel, they're not the only things, but they're two of the most important things on your spinnerbait. So I'm using an American swivel. It's not a Sampo swivel. I wish I could use them, but anybody's bought any of those knows what they cost. But so I'm using that, and I'm using a lot of different high-grade skirt material. I'm getting the skirt material from a couple of different places, and kind of put some color combinations together that seem to work for me. And I center everything around what my experience has been here on Mark Twain Lake. Different color combinations, different blade configurations, and I've definitely got some things that I think work extremely well early in the spring, as well as other times of the year. But there's some specialty things that I kind of do. Some of that I don't sell it exactly like I build it once in a while, not in every case. Some of that stuff you keep in your back pocket. But pretty much that's it. Very, very glad to have Jason come in here and spotlight the business. We're very small potatoes here. Everything's done in the basement at my house. Myself and with my son Darren again, helping me with some of the technology, because I am not a technology guy. But I think what I'd like to do from there is one other thing I want to say before we move on. When we get over, we want to take a peek at the website just briefly. But one theory I had on this, and I hope it was the right one, I wanted to give a customer or fisherman the ability to pick a bait by size, weight, color, and blade, talking spinnerbaits, blade configuration. So there's images on there of them, and you can select that. But then out of the I don't know how many skirts I make, it's a good number of different skirt colors that are on there. You can match that with any skirt color that you want to be added to that bait. So you pick your bait, your basic bait, then you pick your skirt. And I build it from there and ship it to you. And intentionally, I figured there'd be some times where I'd get some very interesting requests, and I sure have. So I just thought that would always, rather than have something just kind of you make it one way and that's the only way you can get it, you have some options. You can do it the same way with a jig or any of that stuff. You can mix and match your skirts, your heads, your colors, and I'll build it any way that you want.
Well, why don't you show us a couple of your spinner baits there, Keith? Kind of show them some color combinations.
Well, here's a very good springtime spinnerbait, one I fish a lot personally, and that is a white chartreuse shad skirt. Now what we've got going on here, this is one of my early spring go-tos. The blades are oversized on that. This is a number 4 Colorado, and that's a 4.5 wide willow. And that keeps this bait up high in the water column. Just built some of these for a couple of guys out here on the lake. I told them I may be sorry I started doing this for them. It may come back to haunt me a little bit, because this I can tell you, I don't mind telling you, this very bait right there is what we won the first Joe Bass tournament on last spring on Mark Twain. So when you find the right combination, you can run that bait extremely slow in the water column. Not that you're slow rolling it, but it'll stay high in the water column, but you'll run it real slow. When the fish are lethargic, they can come up and they can catch it. We've got looking for a willow. I don't know if I've got one made. This is a skirt color that I'm real partial to, and I kind of call it my Truman color. But you can see all the flash in that. It's got a lot of chrome and gold, white chartreuse flash, nickel and gold scale blades, and you're seeing some pattern there. I'm a big fan of the scale pattern, and that probably looks like a hammered to a lot of you, but that is not a hammered blade. That's a thin metal blade. It's a lightweight blade. They turn super easy, and I only know of one company that makes that blade. If you look at it, it's got a true crosshatch in the blade, and it's not hammered, and it just puts on a multifaceted flash in the water. That's one awesome spinnerbait in the fall on Truman right there, as well as out here. But I've done real well down there on that one. I do make these, and I do sell more of them than I thought I would. These little inline buzz baits. Kind of a homemade inline buzz bait. Got a good hook on it. It's not an oversized hook, but it's got a good hook on it, and it is. I've been kind of surprised by it when I started making it. It works out pretty good. I don't know. I probably still, honestly, I kind of gravitate to something that makes a little more noise. This thing's kind of a subtle. It's kind of a what do you call it? It's not got a lot of racket. It doesn't make a lot of noise. Kind of a quiet buzz bait. And there are times maybe where that would work out for you. Mm-hmm. This is a crazy color. That's what I call hot crawl. A lot of us probably know, you know, cold water in the spring. This red is hard to beat. And I catch a lot of fish out here on Mark Twain using that bait right there with, I like to fish the Yamamoto Zako on the back of these. And seems to work pretty good. So
cool. That's pretty cool. You want to check out the website?
Yeah, we'll run over here and so this is our home page on our website. So you can see as we scroll through here, and that's where I like to say Darren's give us more website than we have anything else, I believe. It's a really neat page that he's put together for us, and you can read on there a lot of the text. It's a lot of stuff comes from me. That's how I feel about things, and that's what I'm trying to do. Lots of images, kind of explaining what our products are, good pictures of them. Happens to be a little shaky head that I don't pour those myself. I've got a gentleman supplying these to me. It's got the little swing keeper here on it, and I started fishing these last year, and I'm not fishing anything but that. That thing is an awesome shaky head. There's the skirts I was talking about. We've got lots of different skirt colors and combinations to choose from.
Picture you, right?
Yeah, that was up north, smallmouth fishing. And I've centered a lot of, and there's old Jimmy Coiner. Look at that, the Cosmic Chicken.
Cosmic Chicken, yeah. Right there.
That's when Jimmy and I were down at Truman a couple of years ago, and we both qualified for the Missouri State team. So that's where that picture came from. Trying to promote everything around the business. Got links to everybody's websites. So that's kind of what we're centered it on. We're all about Mark Twain Lake and trying to promote the area and trying to promote everything Mark Twain. So anyway, that's kind of the size of it.
Well, that's going to wrap up this business spotlight with Mark Twain Lake Lure Company with Keith Hendricks. I want to thank him for joining us. And stay tuned to Mark Twain Lake Fishing Intel. We're going to have some more bass stuff coming from him down the line in the near future. So you're not going to want to miss him videos. So hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see everybody on the next video.